because every single performance was judged under a microscope, every missed chance became headline news, and every big game carried expectations that would crush most players mentally. But Ronaldo kept pushing forward, learning how to transform criticism into motivation, and that emotional battle became one of the defining parts of his career, because behind the incredible goals and trophies was a human being constantly trying to prove himself again and again, even after already reaching the top. And one of the most emotional chapters of his career came during his years with the Portugal national team, because representing Portugal meant far more to him than club football alone. It represented his country, his roots, his family, and the dream he carried since childhood. And for many years, international football brought him painful heartbreak instead of celebration, especially during finals and major tournaments where critics accused him of failing to deliver for his nation, despite carrying unbelievable pressure on his shoulders every time he stepped onto the pitch for Portugal. One of the toughest emotional moments arrived during the UEFA Euro 2004 final, when Portugal lost at home to Greece, because Ronaldo was still very young at the time, full of passion and emotion, and cameras captured him crying on the pitch after the defeat, creating one of the most iconic emotional images in football history. And that moment stayed in his memory for years because it represented pain, disappointment, and unfinished business. But instead of letting failure destroy him, Ronaldo used that heartbreak as fuel to become stronger mentally, and over the following years, fans watched him evolve into a leader capable of handling immense pressure, even during the darkest moments. And perhaps that is why the victory at UEFA Euro 2016 felt so emotional for Ronaldo and Portugal fans worldwide, because after years of criticism, failures, and painful exits, Ronaldo finally lifted a major international trophy for his country. And even though he was injured early in the final against France, his emotional presence on the sideline showed how much the moment truly meant to him, because he was not thinking about personal glory at that point. He was thinking about Portugal, about redemption, and about completing a dream that had haunted him since 2004. When the final whistle blew and Portugal became European champions, Ronaldo's tears told the entire story without words, because they represented years of sacrifice, pain, pressure, and determination finally turning into triumph, and millions of fans around the world connected with that emotion. Even people who were not Ronaldo supporters, because moments like that remind everyone that athletes are still human beings with emotions, dreams, fears, and struggles behind the fame. And Ronaldo's emotional journey became even more powerful because of the personal tragedies he experienced away from football, especially the death of his father, which deeply affected him throughout his career, because Ronaldo often spoke about how much he wished his father could have seen his greatest achievements, including Ballon d'Or victories, Champions League titles, and global success. But sadly, his father passed away before witnessing most of those moments, and that emotional pain remained with Ronaldo for years, quietly influencing his mentality and his desire to succeed. Many fans see Ronaldo's obsession with discipline and success as pure ambition, but emotionally, part of it also came from wanting to honor his family and prove that their sacrifices were worth it, because his mother worked incredibly hard to support him during difficult financial times in Madeira, and Ronaldo never forgot those struggles, which is why family always remained central in his life despite worldwide fame. And over time, fatherhood added another emotional layer to his personality, because becoming a father changed the way he viewed life beyond football, making him more protective, emotional, and focused on legacy, not just as a footballer but also as a person. And fans began seeing softer moments from Ronaldo away from the pitch, especially around his children, moments that contrasted with the intense competitor seen during matches. Another emotional period arrived later in his career when he returned to Manchester United, because for many fans, it felt like a beautiful reunion between a legend and the club where he became a superstar. And Ronaldo himself looked genuinely emotional during his return, especially hearing the crowd sing his name again at Old Trafford, because those memories connected him to an earlier chapter of his life when everything was still beginning. But football can also be cruel emotionally, and his second spell at the club eventually became filled with tension, criticism, and disappointment, creating another difficult emotional challenge in his career, especially as people questioned his role, his age, and his future in football. But even during those difficult periods, Ronaldo continued fighting with the same mentality that defined his entire journey. Perhaps one of the saddest emotional moments of Ronaldo's life came in 2022, when he publicly revealed the heartbreaking loss of his newborn son, because that tragedy went far beyond football, reminding the world that even global superstars experience devastating personal pain. And during that difficult time, support poured in from fans, clubs, players, and even rivals around the world, showing how football can unite people emotionally during moments of grief. And many supporters admired Ronaldo for continuing to carry himself with strength despite such unimaginable heartbreak, because emotionally recovering while still living under global public attention is something very few people could handle. And that moment revealed a more vulnerable side of Ronaldo that fans rarely see. Throughout his career, Ronaldo has often been described as arrogant, intense, or obsessed with winning, but when people look deeper into his story, they see someone driven by emotion, sacrifice, and relentless pressure from a very young age. And perhaps that emotional fire is exactly what made him one of football's greatest icons. Because greatness at Ronaldo's level is never built only on talent, it is built on pain, criticism, discipline, heartbreak, and the ability to continue moving forward, no matter what happens. And that is why his story connects with millions beyond football itself, because whether people support him or not, they recognize the emotional resilience behind the trophies, goals, and records, and they understand that Cristiano Ronaldo's journey is ultimately the story of a boy from Madeira who carried enormous dreams, faced incredible emotional battles, and still found a way to rise to the very top of world football. Criticism and expectations behind the scenes, and one of the most emotional chapters of his career came with the Portuguese national team, because for years, critics claimed that despite all his club success, he could never bring international glory to Portugal, and that criticism followed him tournament after tournament, creating enormous emotional pressure every single time he wore the national jersey. But everything changed during UEFA Euro 2016 final, a night that became one of the most emotional moments in football history, because after suffering an injury early in the final, Ronaldo was forced to watch from the sidelines in tears, unable to help his teammates physically on the pitch. Yet emotionally he never stopped fighting, coaching, shouting, motivating, and living every second of the match with passion. And when Portugal finally won the tournament, the images of Ronaldo crying with joy became unforgettable, because it was not just a trophy, it was years of pressure, criticism, and sacrifice finally turning into victory. And throughout his career there were many other emotional moments that showed the human side behind the superstar. Moments with family, emotional interviews, difficult losses, injuries, criticism, and personal struggles that reminded fans that even global icons feel pain, pressure, and doubt. And perhaps that is what makes Ronaldo's story so powerful, because despite every setback, every emotional challenge, and every moment of pressure, he always found a way to continue moving forward, and that resilience became one of the defining traits of his legacy, because Ronaldo's greatness is not just about goals or trophies, it is about surviving pressure that would break most people and still finding the strength to succeed. And that is why for millions of fans, Cristiano Ronaldo is not only admired as a football legend, but respected as a symbol of determination, emotion, and relentless belief.